Coming up this week on CarAdvice, ANCAP, why safety is critical in your next car purchase.
And the luxury car tax, how to get the best car for your money without being slugged by this ridiculous tax.
And new car warranties and the Australian consumer law. What are your rights when it comes to buying a car?
Welcome to Car Advice and thanks again for joining us. Once again, it's been a big week in automotive. Tonight, we're going to look at the ANCAP program. We'll interview the CEO and we'll tell you why ANCAP is important for Australian consumers. We're going to look at the best cars that fall under the luxury car tax. And let me tell you, there's plenty of them to look at. And we're going to take a bit of a dive into warranties and Australian consumer law and find out what your rights really are. Once again, with me at the desk, Paul Maric.
Hello, mate.
Hello, mate. Let's first investigate the Holden Acadia. Why is this vehicle important for Holden in Australia? This segment is just going crazy.
Yep.
And once upon a time, everyone would have bought a Holden Commodore. They're not doing that anymore. What's so important about the Holden Acadia?
Well, if you're not buying a dual cab ute, you're buying an SUV.
Yeah.
And fact of the matter is 7-seat SUVs are taking off in a big way because it means you have breathing room. If you've got a kid on the way and they're going to have friends or you're going to be a designated driver.
You should buy a people mover.
Well, no, an SUV.
Yeah, that's right, because people movers look rubbish, don't they?
And the Acadia is based on a GMC product from the States. Yep. It's coming to Australia with local ride and handling tuning, and it's going to come with a decent engine as well, a 3.6-litre V6. That means it's got plenty of punch and lots of room inside as well.
So we should be expecting this towards the end of 2018, before the end of the year. It comes into a segment that's highly competitive. What are the point of differences going to be? I mean, there's technological things, the engine performance, what it drives like. I think the local ride and handling tune that you mentioned will have a big part to play because that'll make it feel like it's a vehicle that's more tailored towards Australia. But why would you buy this over something like a Kluger, which is the most favourite?
This is the interesting point because Kluger, the rest of the cars in this segment are either sort of smaller petrols or they're diesels. The Kluger and the Acadia are big petrol engines, and it's been proven with Toyota that people don't mind spending big dollars on fuel if it means they've got the surety behind the wheel, especially for towing.
I think that's interesting too, because if you look at something like Prado, it's, there's a lot of petrol engine Prados running around town. This is really interesting for me. This Tesla stock market announcement that we heard recently, and then on the back of that, Aston Martin announcing they're going to float. Just first tell us a little bit about what Tesla did and why.
Elon Musk is the Donald Trump
everybody's best mate.
Twitter.
Yeah.
I mean, he's I don't know, he's doing some nasty things here to the Tesla brand because, I mean, he keeps coming out with ridiculous things. And one thing that he came out with just recently is that he's going to make it private. Now, of course, you can't do that because that's a price-sensitive announcement. And now he's being investigated by the SEC over that announcement. It caused the share price to surge by 11%. And this could be insider trading. So it's not good news for Musk.
I've got a message for Elon. I don't think he's watching tonight, but I've got a two-pronged message for you, mate. Number one, work out your build quality so you build cars that don't fall apart. And I've got a novel idea as well. You could start building cars for people that you've already taken deposits from that still haven't even seen them. That might be a nice idea as well. Aston Martin announcing that they're going to go public. I guess this is a big deal because in the last few years, Aston Martin have really been kicking some goals. They've been delivering some incredible product that people want to buy. It's been resonating with consumers. And in many ways, they've gone back to those glory days that they used to have in the 60s and 70s, haven't they?
Yeah, look, they have. And Aston plans to float 25% of the company, which would value it at almost $9 billion. So it is a big thing there, and they're doing good things by sharing components with Mercedes-Benz. But their profits aren't quite there yet. Yeah. So if you do invest in this, you've got to keep in mind that these guys are spending lots of money and hoping to get returns later down the track.
Does the link with Red Bull really mean anything? Does the link with Red Bull Racing, with Formula One, does it mean anything to Aston Martin or not?
I mean, you look at it, it's fairly
it's just about a presence, to say we understand motor racing and we're there as part of it. Another segment that continues to grow in Australia, and I'll put my hand up and say I just don't get it, because if you're buying a compact SUV, in many cases, you look at a Mazda CX-2, you are better off buying a Mazda 3. It drives better, it's got more space, it's more flexible. That compact SUV segment is growing. One of the first that thought outside the box and had interesting styling was the Nissan Juke. Most people criticised it and said, oh, it looks awful, it's too weird looking. There's a new Juke coming, or rumoured to be coming. What does that mean now that the segment has really changed a lot? You've got things like CHR and Kona have come in, and now people are expecting vehicles that don't look like everything else.
Yeah. And look, this is the thing, that these cars are very strange looking. They have a certain demographic and market that they appeal to, but Duke sales are down, so it's not like they're selling in droves. So it will be interesting to see how that performs. But get this quote from Alfonso Albeza.
Yeah, this is great.
It's an urban meteor with a nasty attitude.
Yeah. What does that even mean?
That means nothing, because that's
maybe Alfonso, I'm not sure whether he's Spanish or Italian, but maybe he's translated that directly from his native language and it doesn't quite make sense. It's a bit like that Mazda MX-5 horse and jockey, Jinba Itai or whatever they call it.
Mate, they all come up with just random
design
stuff.
Cars that look good.
Yep. So
instead of worrying about that.
Yeah, this segment brings to it a lot of technology. So Kona, for example, comes with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all that sort of stuff that young people want. And they're certainly not worried about space, because these cars aren't big inside. They don't have big boots. They don't do towing or off-road. So it is certainly a style statement that you will then progressively move up through the ranks of your SUVs.
Do you think people are more amenable now to this weird, left of field, strange kind of car design? Because back in the day when this first came out, people didn't want to know about it.
Yeah, well, people buy strange things. I will let you in on a secret. Trent drives a smart car. So.
I do, yeah, sometimes I do. That's very true, actually. And if you didn't think tech was important, have a look at our story at caradvice.com on this new Nissan Duke and have a look at what they're thinking about, because that's the direction of the future.
Coming up on Car Advice, no crash test dummies here. The boss of ANCAP on the ins and outs of those all-important safety ratings.
Five-star ANCAP ratings, Paul. Everybody in Australia understands a five-star ANCAP rating.
Mate, I don't reckon my mum would, so I don't think everyone
you're
does.
Probably right. The Australasian New Car Assessment Program is a little more complex than you might think, and that's why we've got CEO James Goodwin on to help us explain exactly what ANCAP is about. So, James, what is ANCAP?
Hi guys, thanks for your time, thanks for the interest. Well, what is ANCAP? We're a consumer body that crashes cars. And why do we do that? We're an independent body that aims to empower consumers so that they know when they go into a showroom how safe a vehicle is. We provide star ratings between 0 and 5, with 5 being the safest.
James, what does ANCAP actually do?
So what we do through our protocols is try and replicate as much as possible those real-world crashes that occur on the road. We use laboratories to do the crash tests, and then what we have then is a star rating system so that people, when they go into the showroom, they can determine how safe that vehicle is, and they can make those comparisons between those cars.
What's ANCAP's position on manufacturers who deliberately avoid testing?
We're independent, and what we're after is to make sure that there's a benchmark in the new vehicle marketplace. It's a very competitive market, so we want the manufacturers to do the right thing. They should approach us, they should offer vehicles for testing when they enter the marketplace, but if they don't, we'll work out some ways to get those vehicles and issue a star rating for them. A couple of years ago, the memo went round not to sell cars to ANCAP from one particular brand, so we went and got the vehicles from New Zealand. That's good for the consumer, and at the moment we've got a 95% fleet coverage.
James, let's be honest, why should we rely on ANCAP when we could simply get test results from Euro NCAP?
If ANCAP shut up shop here in Australia, there'd be many, many vehicles that don't have an independent safety rating. We've got different market and different buyer preferences. You look at dual cab utes, for instance, in Australia and New Zealand, very, very popular, but they're not very popular in Europe. So those dual cabs may never be tested by Euro NCAP. So what we're doing is we're working smart together. So vehicles from Asia, from Korea, from Japan, they sell in much higher numbers in Australia than what they do in Europe. So that's where we will go first with those vehicles and be able to share those results with Europe. From this year, quite importantly, it's a reciprocal arrangement. We've been accepting data from Europe for a number of years now, but from this year, now with exactly the same protocols, Europe will now be republishing results from Australia.
Is there somewhere Australians can go to easily understand the ANCAP ratings and what they mean?
The best place to go to find out about ANCAP ratings is at the ANCAP website, ancap.com.au, but also download our app. It's a free app. It allows you to compare different vehicles between different segments, but it also has a crash log. So if unfortunately you are involved in a crash, It will talk you through the steps, what information you need from that other driver and so on. It will also geolocate where you are. So ANCAP.com.au is the place to go to find out the information about how we determine the ratings and also for that comparison.
Could ANCAP make the explanations of these crash testing results a little bit easier to understand for, average punters?
Look, this is complicated, but we try and make it as easy to understand as we can. The crash tests that we do are trying to replicate as much as possible those real-world crashes that occur. So think about that frontal offset test that we do, replicating two cars having a head-on crash. The side impact test, a car going through an intersection, a stop sign or a red light. That's what that's replicating. But the simple thing, we've done the hard work for you. Look at the star rating and also look at the date stamp. So the date stamp is the new element that you can determine how relevant and how recent that star rating is. So we would say, look for a 5-star vehicle with a date stamp that's no more than 3 years old. So buying something in 2018, look for that 2018, 17 or 16 date stamp, and that way you know that you're buying a vehicle that's been tested to the latest protocols.
James, this is a really interesting one for me, mate. With no locally manufactured cars and with our test criteria now aligned with Euro NCAP, just how vital is ANCAP's local testing program?
That's a really good question. A lot of people ask this. Look, end of local manufacturing, do we still need an ANCAP? Well, ANCAP, interestingly, the first car that ANCAP ever tested was a fully imported vehicle. We've always been about the local marketplace, not about the local manufacturing industry. I think now more than ever we're relevant because we're now getting vehicles from all over the world. We don't have any controls over the vehicles that are made in Australia, so we need an independent body to actually make sure we don't become a dumping ground for the poorer quality vehicles that may be offered around the world. So having ANCAP means that the vehicle brands are absolutely thinking about the sort of vehicles that they're sending to Australia, the specifications that they have, and also how safe they are. So now more than ever, we're more relevant.
James, this one seems pretty simple to me. Why is it not mandated that all cars need to be crash tested? And should we really be selling cars on Australian roads that have a 1, 2 or even 3-star crash rating?
All vehicles on sale in Australia meet what are called the Australian design rules, but ANCAP tries to be above those, and we've got good fleet coverage at the moment. 95% of all cars on sale in Australia, all those new cars, have an ANCAP rating, so we're doing really well. But I take your point. Look, we would love to have 100% coverage, and that's certainly what we're working towards. But we are independent, we are a not-for-profit. It is a costly business. To make a 5-star rating, we need to destroy 5 vehicles. So we're doing pretty well. But why isn't it a requirement? Well, that would change the system. We would then become regulation. And we can see with regulation, legislation, that takes a long time to change. So we've got a lot of flexibility. So what we have is a good balance between the regulatory requirements that are administered by the Australian government and then ANCAP there to support that and to be above those regulations. So we've got a good mix.
Thanks so much for your time, James. If viewers would like to find out more about ANCAP, they can of course visit the website ancap.com.au, or they can find out about all the latest crash test results at caradvice.com.
Up next, Paul and Trent tackle the luxury car tax. Find out how you can get around it next time you're in the market for a schmick set of wheels.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of fun, Paul. Can you first describe to me, in a word, the luxury car tax?
Yeah, this one's easy.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous, right. I was going to say stupid. It's complete and utter nonsense, and we get asked about it all the time. What is it? What does it apply to? Why do we still have it? We're going to look at that in more detail, really, in a future episode, but can you explain to the viewers why we have a luxury car tax?
Well, we used to build cars in Australia one time.
Luxury cars, Paul?
No, well, Caprice.
Yeah, Caprice.
It was luxury-ish.
Is that a word?
I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we don't build anything in Australia anymore, do we? Right. Anything at all, not just cars. So you could argue, why do we have a luxury car tax? However, it's here, and we've got no say about that right at the moment. Now, for the 2018-2019 financial year, excellent website, this, caradvice.com. Yes. They're saying at caradvice.com that it's going to be $66,331. Then for what we call fuel-efficient vehicles, that is vehicles that use less than 7 litres per 100, $75,526. So I'm going to play a little game here. I want you to choose 2 vehicles that don't attract luxury car tax, therefore vehicles that come for cheaper than $66,331.
All right, so the first one, I'm going to cheat a little bit.
Yeah.
The Ford Ranger Raptor.
Right.
Yes, it is $75,000.
Let me just check. 66, yeah.
I've got an explanation. It's exempt from the luxury car tax.
Why?
It's a caveat. It's
Right,
some
okay,
rule,
right,
which is
okay.
why you see so many of them on the road. So $75,000 plus your on-road costs. I think it's a really cool car, and it fits the bill for my type of thing. The second car for me, it's a car that's very special to me, BMW M140i.
Oh, geez, I want to hate on you for choosing that thing,
Really?
but it's so good. No, I can't.
gonna say.
I can't. It's actually really good. I think the interesting thing about the M140 for me is it's actually a hot hatch.
Yes.
But people don't consider it as a
real hot hatch.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
front-wheel drive.
That's true.
So driven by the rear wheels, turbocharged 6-cylinder
Big engine, yeah.
It sounds absolutely incredible. And I reckon this will be one of the last cars that actually comes in this configuration.
Yeah, you're right.
So for me, that's good. Now, your inferior cars, what would you be choosing?
Can I just say before we do that, we actually bought an M140i at CarAdvice, so we are big fans of that vehicle. We're going through the ownership perspective to see what it feels like. And yeah, that is a good choice. I'd love to be able to smack you down. So my 2 are proper hot hatches, because you said a proper hot hatch is driven by the rear wheels. I'd argue that a proper hot hatch is driven by the front wheels at the very least. Yeah, okay, that's fine. i30N, Hyundai i30N. Challenge you to hate that car.
No, that I'm perfectly fine with because, well, when you're driving it, it sounds like gunshots.
It does.
And obviously you don't want to be using those in public, but if you're on a track or doing something fun, it actually sounds like you're driving a race car.
We had a really big deal happen at CarAdvice within the last few months, actually, where we tested the i30N up against the Volkswagen Golf GTI.
Yes.
And we were faced with doing something we've never done before, which is we've dethroned a legend. You know, this Hyundai i30N is a spectacularly good car for the money. It's a genuine hot hatch. It's staggering that Hyundai have managed to do this and execute it with their first attempt, really. Let's be honest. I mean, they've stolen the best engineers from German car manufacturers. However, what they've managed to do with this i30N is provide an incredibly affordable hot hatch in the truest sense of the word. People are going crazy for it. They're lining up to buy it. I reckon the only reason you wouldn't buy it now is that there's no automatic. So some people are saying, oh, I'd prefer a DSG or I'd prefer an automatic gearbox. I guess that's why you wouldn't buy one right now.
And there's a wait list as well.
There is,
But to put it into perspective, Albert Biermann, the bloke that engineered this car, was the head of BMW's M division for decades. He then tuned it at the Nürburgring, which is the iconic global racetrack. And if you want to see this thing drag race the Golf GTI, just head to caradvice.com, have a look at our video. You will not believe how quick it is.
It is quick, and it gets off the mark fast too. And my second one, speaking about Volkswagen product, I wouldn't bother with the Golf GTI. I'd go straight to the Golf R.
Yes.
Now, I know it's boring, and I understand it's like, oh, another Golf. Yeah, I'm a boring kind of a person, just in general. But I think I suit the Golf R because for me, I like the idea of a hot hatch that I can drive quickly when I want to. And you see people with these at track days. They are great performance hatches because of the all-wheel drive system. And I think while the GTI is a more pure hot hatch in the truest sense of the term, this takes things up another level. And for me, the Golf R is incredibly livable. It's really fast. It's all-wheel drive, so it's got plenty of grip in the wet. And it's just got that premium feel about it without a sky-high price tag.
Here's 2 questions for you. Gearbox, manual or automatic?
Automatic.
Okay, and colour?
White.
White. Okay, interesting. Well, automatic, we've clocked this 0 to 100 kilometres an hour in 4.6 seconds. That's quicker than...
That is quick.
That's quicker than pretty much everything on the market.
That is quick. And I think what it shows too is just the changing tastes of people who are into those vehicles, because for a long time Volkswagen didn't have a stepping stone from the GTI. Now they do the Golf R. Maybe let us know what your favourite car is or what you'd buy and not attract the luxury car tax.
Ahead on CarAdvice, getting the most out of your warranty, even after it expires.
We've had plenty of reader correspondence on this one, mate, at the website. Warranties and Australian consumer law, what your warranty covers you for, what it doesn't. We get people asking whether they should sign extended warranties, whether they should add a warranty when they buy a second-hand car. The list is endless, but we've had a really good question from a viewer this week. What was it specifically?
Okay, so they've asked, they have a new car and it's almost out of warranty now. Are they covered once it is out of warranty? Well, guess what? You are absolutely covered. So the Australian Consumer Law was enacted 1st of Jan 2011, and that effectively covers all new and used car purchases. As long as you've bought it after that time, you are covered. What that means is if you have something like a major defect on the car that's stopping it from working, the manufacturer is obliged to fix that for you or replace the car if it is outside of their warranty.
For how long after that point? So if we're talking about a manufacturer that has, let's say, a 3-year warranty, because viewers will have heard us talk about 5- and 7-year warranties and, you know, longer warranty periods, but the average period is still around about 3 years. So you're at the 3.5-year mark, so you're 6 months out of your factory warranty. How much longer have you got with this, Australian Consumer Law covering you?
Depends by product. When we're talking about a car, I would certainly expect a car to last longer than 3 years.
Absolutely.
I promise you that much.
Yeah.
So if you do have issues with a car beyond that period, if Kia is covering cars, for example, for 7 years, it means you should be at least expecting the car to last between 7 and 10 years. And as long as you get that car serviced, this is the most important part. You can't just skip services because if you have normal wear and tear, that's fine. But if you neglect the car and don't have it serviced, it's like a person, you've got to have checkups every now and then, you are going to be covered. So you can see that full description at the CarAdvice website. It will tell you what it covers as well. And a lot of people are simply going with this information to their dealer and they're able to get across the line with whatever they need.
Absolutely, and people ask us that question all the time. The point that you just made there about servicing is a big one. We're big advocates, certainly for the warranty period at CarAdvice. We say go back to the dealer where you purchased the vehicle or an authorised dealer if you've changed or moved address, whatever, and get your car serviced there. Get it done under the logbook. Get it done to spec. If your car is due for service every 10,000, don't let it run out to 15 and 20,000. Get it serviced because then you are protected by having looked after that vehicle to the letter of the law. Don't let it drag on, in other words.
Yep, absolutely. And this will ensure as well that you're using genuine parts and that the car has been looked after by people that know what they're looking at as well. And outside of your warranty, then you can shop around, but just make sure you've got someone that actually knows what they're doing.
And more these days too, manufacturers are smarter in that they realise if they look after you, you will come back to them for repeat business and they will keep you for longer periods. So keep an eye on that. Go to caradvice.com if you want to find out exactly what that Australian consumer law is all about. That's all we have time for this week. Stay tuned to caradvice.com if you need to know anything about new car purchases and join us here again next week.